All right, welcome back to Fantasy Insanity. Tonight, I bring on somebody to talk about a cool league that I was lucky enough to be able to join. Matt Price, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if you got to join so much as I pressured you to join and then you gave in at the last minute.
No, it wasn't pressure. The first time you bounced the idea off of the group, I was like, oh, that sounds like a fun one. I need to, and then I was just like, no, I don't need to. I don't need to. I don't need to. And then you said a second time, like, hey, does anybody still want in? And I was like, all right, well, sure. That was clearly enough arm twisting. Just saying, hey, are you sure nobody wants in? That was how much you twisted my arm to get me to join another league.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're glad to have you though, for sure.
it's a cool one. I wouldn't have joined it if it wasn't very cool. But me and you have a lot of these same like requirements as we've talked. In order to join a new league, it's got to have a lot of the things that this has that we'll get into. But so you're here to talk about the Red List Dynasty, which is going to be great. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you. First off, just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can hear and read and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find all of my football work at dynastyleaguefootball.com. I do writing for them and as well co-host the podcast along with Jeff Miller, Dan Myler, and our new addition, Chad Scott. So you can find that stuff there. I do more podcasting now than writing. I kind of enjoy it. Find that I enjoy it more than the writing now. I still like writing, but when you're doing a podcast every week or so, sometimes the writing falls off. But anyway, that's where you can find my football work. And then you can find Zookeeper Stories at zookeeperstories.com, which is my podcast, basically a ripoff of the Backyard Banner podcast, except for I took Matt Harmon's idea and now use it for zookeeping. So I just interview zookeepers about their job and how they got to where they are.
Yeah, and I'll recommend that to people. I am not a zookeeper. I've never like considered myself wanting to be a zookeeper, but it's still fun to hear the stories. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
It's people that are very, very passionate about what they do and animals. And there's always entertaining stories that you always have like somebody share, hey, so what's the most embarrassing animal story you have? And people are very open in sharing them. So, uh, obviously, I'm sure everybody listens to DLF. Give Zookeeper Stories a try as well. So, all right. Well, when did you, before we get into the league, when did you actually start playing like fantasy football or fantasy sports? If you started with something other than football?
Yeah, I started my first fantasy sport actually was fantasy basketball back in like the early 90s, and my first fantasy football league was in like 1996, and then I started playing Dynasty a couple of years after that. So it's been quite the ride there. I don't know, I just got hooked on it. I started watching football as a like junior high schooler, early, maybe it was freshman year of high school, something like that in Wisconsin, and it's kind of like my first intro into people that are super crazy about sports, the Packer fans. So I kind of like adopted that as my team, even though I'm not really from Wisconsin, just lived there for 2 years. Yeah, about that time. And then Dynasty League football kind of just caught my eye because, you play redraft and you're like, I wish I could build a whole team. I wish I didn't have to give up on these guys every year. I wish my season wasn't over after 3 injuries, So, you want a little bit more and you get into Dynasty. So I've been playing Dynasty for almost 20 years now. I think this might be my 20th year playing the game.
So over the past few years, has your off season changed? Or from what I know, you're extremely active right now in the off season, what should be the off season, but it feels like it's more work now than what the in season is after doing this for just a little bit. Have you increased your leagues and your off season activity, or is this how you've been now for years?
Oh no, I've definitely been ramping up. The more and more you get into this community, the more and more leagues you find out about, which is, why you have this podcast to tell everybody about all those awesome leagues. So every year I say I'm going to cut down, just like everybody else, I'm sure. And every year I end up adding more. This year I cut down 3. My plan was to get down to 10. And I cut down to 3 to get to 10, and then I added 5. So back up to 15. And I really feel like that's my limit. The last few weeks have been really fun, post NFL draft. But it's been a lot of work, I think I had 2 startups and like 6 rookie drafts and like 2 auctions or something going on at the same time. So yeah, a lot of craziness going on. And one of those that we're talking about tonight was when I was commissioning. So the last month or so has been really crazy, and I'm glad we're winding down a little bit to have a little break here in the middle of summer before we get to the season.
So how many times a day do you check in on MFL?
Oh my gosh. Probably not every single league, every single day. But definitely I'm on the ones that are, have some things going on right now. Like I haven't been on Red List in one day, surprisingly. But I was on KS, whole day. I was on KS5 multiple times today. I was on Power Hungry once today looking at a trade offer. That's the thing is when you get this many leagues, now you have also trade offers coming from 15 different directions too, sometimes multiple coming from each league. And you don't want to be the guy that takes a week to respond, but you want to think about them and marinate a little bit. But then when you have so many, you just like, wait, which league is which trade offer, so it gets a little bit nuts. So I think I'm at my limit now. We'll see. I say that for now, but we'll see next year when somebody starts up another awesome league.
Yeah. Not to mention that some of the leagues have 56 owners sending offers.
Yeah.
So
56 owners.
It's a lot there. You're right. There's not a day goes by that I don't get probably at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trade offers, which is it's fun. It's still fun, I should say. If it ever loses that fun, then I guess I'll
for
just have
sure
to quit altogether. But
I wouldn't take on all the craziness if I didn't love it.
Yeah, we're all junkies, and I still anytime you get that email that says, trade proposal, oh sweet, open that immediately and respond. Hopefully positively.
Oh yeah, I'm ridiculous because I have issues getting emails from MFL still, including trade offer emails. So I get them. I have them all set to text. So sometimes my phone is blowing up all day at work. Today, actually, just a quick tangent here. I was doing the one of a keeper talk at the Maine Wolf exhibit today, and my phone just kept buzzing like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, who is blowing up my phone? I'm like, my wife. I hope my wife is okay. I looked down at my phone. And there's like 4 trade offers.
Nice.
Okay, got it.
Was that in Power Hungry or was that a different league?
One was
trying to think if I saw anything go by in Power Hungry.
No, I don't think any was Power Hungry today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure I wasn't missing something that I need to be aware of.
I did make a big trade in Power Hungry a few days ago that I'm still not sure how I feel about. But
what was the trade in Power Hungry?
I traded because I needed a quarterback so bad. I traded Antonio Brown and Phillip Rivers to get Cam Newton, and I got Larry Fitzgerald thrown in on top. So,
oh my God, I don't even think I saw that come. Oh, I gotta see.
Yeah, with TK. So I was trying. I was trying to get a quarterback so bad in that league, and I was like, nobody wants Antonio Brown. I sent it to Mark Hill. Antonio Brown for Jameis Winston, straight up rejected. Antonio Brown for Luck, rejected. Antonio Brown for any quarterback, basically, in that league that was in the top, inside the top 10 or so. Everybody said no, so I had to overpay a little bit.
Brutal in that league. It's brutal. 14-team super flex it and 6-point touchdowns. So I wouldn't trade Jameis or Andrew Luck for Antonio Brown either. I can't fault either of those rejections, but
it's fair. It's just so weird to see the top receiver, being rejected for a quarterback. It's just such a weird thing. Anyway, sorry to derail your show.
No, that's you kidding. That's what people enjoy talking about. I kind of wonder if somebody would give Jameis for like OBJ or Evans. They might not consider.
Somebody should try that out.
Yeah, if I had, you've seen my roster in that league.
I have seen your roster.
It is pathetic. I don't have anything worth trading. All right, let's get in the red list. We're going to talk. We're not here to talk about Power Hungry. That was like 3 episodes ago. I don't know, a while back. So red list. First off, what does this mean? What is the red list?
So I still am not sure 100% how I feel about the title. It just kind of was the best thing that came to my mind, and I got an opportunity to build a site, and I needed a title for it, so that's what I am. But the title comes from the IUCN, Red List, which is the major conservation committee that kind of determines what animals, or not just animals, what organisms basically are, have threatened or endangered populations. And they kind of document that based on census numbers and things. So this league took the title from that.
All right. And so because it is so focused on that issue, before we talk about the actual league, what are the benefits that this league brings to that?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll just start over here. Before we get into talking about like the specific league settings and the startup and everything like that, what is this league going to do for animals on the Red List?
So I've long wanted to be able to do something with fantasy to kind of give back. And the last several years, Scott Fish and Jeff Miller have Fantasy Cares, which is a great organization that gives money to Toys for Tots and buys toys for kids. So, I was thinking to myself, what can I do in the same way to kind of give back a little bit? And, I'm a zookeeper. I'm passionate about animals. So I thought, hey, why not? See if I can find 12 or 24 owners to get together and, they're like-minded and are willing to give a percentage of their entry fees to animal welfare conservation organizations. Like, for example, an organization called Animals Asia that helps save bears from bile farming in China. Wildlife SOS is an organization that basically ended the dancing bear syndrome in India, which is a horrible practice of people basically taking sloth bears when they're babies, inserting a hot poker through their nose and attaching a rope to that, and then basically tugging on it and having them dance for tourists. So, there are all kinds of organizations out there that help animals and in lots of different ways, whether it's through research or public outreach or, actually in situ or on the ground conservation work and rebuilding habitats and things like that. And all of them are mostly nonprofit kind of organizations that, constantly need money. So I really wanted to create something that combines my two passions, fantasy football and working with animals. So that's what we're doing, man. We're gonna give a bunch of money. It's going to be $300 a year, which is about 25% of the prize pool every year, and the champion of that league is going to get to send $200 to an organization that benefits a charity, and then the second place team will get to send $100 to an organization.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And like you said, that's Scott is a big influence on that, and Jeff. That's something I have tried to put into all my leagues as well now. I really respect Scott for starting that and really pushing it. And I hope that more leagues start to do that. He's right when he says that nobody misses a couple of entry fees. Like you don't even notice it at the end if you win because you're so happy you win, but it really can raise an unbelievable amount of money pretty easily just by playing in fantasy football leagues. It still kind of makes me laugh that it can be used to raise money for charity, but it's great to see. So I'm really glad
I will
never.
I'll never create another. I don't know if I will ever create another league, but if I do, it will. Every other league I create will always have some kind of charity component in it for sure. Like now that I know that there are other people that are willing to do things like that, then it just opens up so much. My concern is always, we're playing this where everybody wants to win the championship. Everybody wants to win the money. Are they really going to be okay if I ask them for this money? But I think if you go in with it, this is what the league is going to be. Choose to enter if or not. If you do, this is what you're signing up for. And it's great. Every single person that has joined this league has come to me specifically and said that one of the reasons why they have joined is because of the costs, which I think is just awesome. And I never would have expected that when I started it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's an awesome league. You designed it. So we'll talk a little bit more now about the design of the league and why it's more than just what meets the eye for a dynasty league. So before we even get to like the startup, what was the first event that we got to participate in this league?
So the first thing we did in this league was to draft a species. We had a species draft. So the way this league is set up, it's set up in 2 conferences of 12 teams. One conference is the carnivores division, or sorry, I guess I call them division, conferences, whatever you want to call it. One division is called the carnivore division, and one division is called the herbivore division. In each one, there are 12 different species that I selected to represent conservation charities for year 1. And years to follow, we may change it up. I haven't really got into that whole thing yet. But for right now, these are the 24 species that are representative. And then the team that wins will get to send charity to the species that they drafted and are representing in this league. So for example, one team is the Lions. So if the Lions win the championship, we're going to send money to an organization that benefits the lion populations.
Yeah, we're going to be benefiting the manatee population.
In year 1, you probably should have more than half a team for that, but we'll talk about that.
I think I might be at half. I think I might be at a half a team. I might actually be at exactly half a team at this point. All I need is a starting 10 and zero injuries. I actually think the way I ended up filling out my roster, I was kind of shocked that I was able to fill it out as far as I did.
Yeah, I know you ended up better than I thought you would for sure.
Yeah, see, the manatee coming to win. But
but I think the fun part of that is going to be, so we haven't picked our rivals yet, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here yet, but there's a rival component of this that is going to lead to a progressive pot, and we'll get to pick a rival. So I think some of the matchups could be really funny, like manatees fighting lions or whatever, you know what I mean?
If anybody is really good at Photoshop, we could have a lot of fun with some of the rivalry weeks on Twitter.
Totally. And a lot of my friends will, they'll while we're out having a beer or something, they'll post questions like, so if a lion and a polar bear had a fight, who's going to win? And so we talk out, well, the polar bear does this well, the lion does this well. So if the lion does this, and the polar bear will win, and vice versa. So could lead to a lot of fun things once we get to rivalry weeks.
I have no faith that the polar bear will win.
Largest land carnivore on the planet.
No fear of the polar bear. Matt's the polar bears. For those paying attention, I'm taking a shot at Matt's team, not the actual animals. Although I think you actually you built a pretty good team too, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty strong.
Yeah.
We'll see though.
People were too nice to you. But all right, so with this, like you said, it is 2 conferences. We all picked our animals, our species. Everybody made fun of me when I picked manatees, but I did it for my kids.
You picked them high too, didn't you? Like in the top 5 or something?
I think I was I might have been the 101.
That does sound familiar, yeah. So everybody was like, record scratch. Pick. Record scratch manatees? Yeah. What? Why did you tell? Sure. Yeah, talk about why you picked the manatees at 101.
Yeah, I chose them. Basically, I mean, we go to Siesta Key to vacation, and so we see manatees in live, like out there, right in the Gulf, right in front of us. I almost got run over by a manatee. Had I not, so the story behind it, I'm sitting out there like right on the sandbar, a little bit deeper than just sitting on the sandbar. So I'm like kind of standing, but just floating, relaxing in the water. And all of a sudden I see a bunch of people on the beach, like looking out at me. And of course, if you're at the ocean and people are looking out, you're like, oh crap, there's a shark. So I start looking around. I don't see any fins, anything like that. But I see this huge, it's just a dark blob. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. Just a dark blob, like gliding through the water. And I see it coming like right at me. Like, I mean, it's moving faster than I would have ever thought like a manatee was moving. Because I don't think of them as fast. But seeing it that close, it was moving. And I mean, it had to be, I don't know, like a ton, 2,000 pounds probably. It was huge. I don't know how much they actually weigh, but I mean, it was gigantic.
Yeah, they
so
can be coming. Go ahead.
How big can they be?
Yeah, they can definitely be over 1,000 pounds. I think they can get up to 1,500 pounds. I should look this up and know this, but I think it's close to 1,500 pounds.
I mean, it
might even be bigger than that, but they are massive in the water. And if you don't know that it's a manatee, or you don't know what it is, or if you don't know if it's dangerous, it is extremely intimidating when they're coming towards you. I've scuba dived with them several times, and they are impressive animals.
Yeah, so I just like scooted forward and it didn't veer at all. It kept coming straight. And had I not moved, it would have knocked me over, which I probably should have stayed there because it would probably been pretty cool to be like, hey, a manatee ran into me in the water and, knocked me right over. So I will always have that story of a manatee. So when I saw him on the list, I kind of thought, I might go then. And then I asked my kids, I showed them the list and they said, oh yeah, manatee. So, and we also, the Cincinnati Zoo does a lot of rehab for manatees.
Really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it seems like every time we go, they like just released one back into the wild. Like they have them for like 2 years, and there's always a sad video playing of how they rescued one and brought it in, like on the video monitor. Right.
They must have a right.
Hold on, go back and what was that?
They must have a center or something in Florida because you're not going to fly the manatee to Cincinnati, are you?
They transport them because they're there. Oh, they're in Cincinnati.
Interesting.
I don't know how they transport them, but
probably
they're there.
Yeah.
And then and they've taken them back to Florida to release them.
That's so cool.
On a few different occasions, and we're big Cincinnati Zoo fans. We like it. So
yeah, it's a good zoo.
Yeah, and the manatee exhibit's always cool. Plus, it's inside and it's nice and air conditioned. So I always enjoy going in to see them. It's hot and steamy to get in there because like the alligator one is like there's an alligator exhibit on the way into the manatee exhibit, but then you go through those doors and it's like, oh, that feels so much better. Nice.
I just looked up the largest manatee has ever been found is 3,913 pounds.
Holy crap! I don't think it was that big, but
that's a big manatee.
It sure looks gigantic. It was just a gliding blob. That's all it was this huge dark blob that I guess people could see it. And thank God I noticed everybody out of the water looking out at me. And I was a little nervous at first. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to really have to swim fast here to get back into the shore. Yeah. If I see a fin, I'm going to be, people are always looking out there. There's dolphins go by all the time too in Siesta Key. It's not even like you see them and it's not like, oh, wow, there's dolphins. Like after you've been there a few times,
right.
It kind of loses its luster because it's like, okay, I saw dolphins today. Yeah, I saw them yesterday and I'll see them tomorrow too, which is cool. That's one fun thing about Siesta Key is the water is very, very calm. So
anyway, I've totally derailed us now, right?
That's okay.
Now we're talking about manatees.
I like talking about vacation about as much as I like talking about football. So yeah. All right. So this league, it is basically two separate 12-team leagues, but we also get to play each other. You play across the conferences or divisions, and we get a progressive pot from that. Let's talk a little bit about that because I love progressive pots, and I think they should be essential in every single fantasy football league, dynasty league at least.
Yeah. So basically, let's say here's how the money breaks down. It's $50 entry fee times 24 gives us $1,200. $300 goes to charity off the top. That leaves us $900 for the prize pool. $300 goes to the champion. Second place gets $200. Third place gets $100. Fourth place gets $50. Both conference champions get $25 each. The highest total points in each conference gets $50, and then another $50 goes to another $100 split into two goes into two different progressive pots. One of them, $50 goes into the back-to-back champions pot, and that's obviously just given to the first owner that wins a championship in back-to-back seasons, which is going to be extremely difficult in a 24-team league, I would guess.
No, I can't wait to take that down next year.
And then the second one has to do with playing the opposite conference. So we have a 13 weeks regular season and only 11 teams in your conference to play. So that leaves us with 2 weeks to play with. In those other 2 weeks, you will be playing you're going to be playing your rivals, which we haven't picked yet, in the other conference. And the Ultimate Survivor progressive pot will go to the first owner to defeat every single team in the opposite conference. So with only 2 games per season, that's going to take at least 6 years to do. There is a bonus also for the two teams that play in the finals, because they're getting a third opportunity to play a team in the opposite conference. So they get a little bit of an advantage there. So I guess it could technically happen in, doing the math, 5 years, depending on how many times you get there. But yeah, so it's probably going to be at least 6 years. So it'll be a $300 progressive pot for the Survivor one, and then however many years it takes to do the back-to-back championship.
Man, I can't wait to take down that pot too. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
This league will not fold. This league will not fold as long as I am playing fantasy football. This league will be around, so nobody has to worry about any of that money going somewhere else. That
is awesome.
And if it does go somewhere else, it'll go to a charity.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Even if for some reason it did have to fold, there's an easy way to distribute that money.
Yep.
We've got some unique scoring in this league as well, which made some people change, at least I assume, change their normal strategy in the auction. But the scoring, let's go over that a little bit. How do you score each position?
So quarterbacks,
unique, I should say.
Yeah, so this is a super flex league, so you can start up to 2 quarterbacks, and I'm totally fine with super flex leagues that have 6 points per passing touchdown, obviously, but I kind of wanted to, while allowing 2 of them to be played every week, I kind of wanted to mute their scoring a little bit. So instead of going with the normal 0.05 or 20 yards per passing point, we went down to 0.04. So it's going to take 25 yards to get 1 point passing. And the passing TDs are only worth 4 instead of 6. Passing 2-pointers are worth 2 points. Interceptions -1, fumbles -1. Rushing and receiving touchdowns, of course, are 6 points. And then the standard 0.1 points per yard for rushing and receiving. 2 points for rushing, receiving 2-pointers. And then here's where it gets a little bit interesting. We have the normal PPR for running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. But tight end receptions are at a premium, and most tight end premium leagues play at 1.5 points for tight end receptions. In this league, we're going to 2 points. So we're doubling that for tight ends, which is going to make them much more attractive, I think, and did so in the auction, I believe. And then we're throwing on a Scott Fish special and throwing on 0.25 points for every rushing attempt for all positions. So those quarterbacks that run a lot, those receivers that also get running back carries, they get a little bit of boost there as well.
Yeah, and the tight end scoring was the one that I was hinting at. And like you said, most tight end premium, they get an extra half a point. I have never played in something where they get double. I'm really curious how much that's going to affect scoring for tight ends. Have you ever played in that before, or was this something that you just wanted to try out and figured, I'm going to go ahead and try it out in this league?
Yeah, I actually have. Only in one place, though. I think it's very rare. The only place I've played it, so very, very early in my fantasy football I guess addiction, we can call it. I was a pretty active member on the Football Guys forum. That was kind of like the first, non big network kind of fantasy football outlet that I found. So I was kind of active on there. And in that, on the forums there's a mock draft forum where people have mock drafts all the time. But someone there created these Survivor leagues that are a little bit different than most kind of best ball leagues. They are best ball, but they're 16-team best balls. And then the low score every single week gets quote unquote booted off the island. So they're out. If you score low one time, you're out. The other side of that, though, is if you're the highest scoring team in a week, you have immunity. And even if you score the lowest the following week, then you stay in. So, and that league is the first place and the only place really, other than this league, that I've seen 2 points per tight end receptions. And in a 16-team league, you can imagine that it makes it pretty crazy. Gronkowski always goes in the mid first round of those. So give you a little bit of idea of how valuable they can be.
Yeah, I think it definitely made some people really value tight end. And perhaps even, I kind of wonder if some people spent too much on them, thinking it was going to be just a huge, huge difference. Which maybe it still will be, but do you think people went overboard, or do you think people were like right on par with where they should be?
Well, the beauty of this league as well is that you're only required to start one of each position of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. The other 6 flex options you can do with whatever you want with. You can start 7 tight ends if you want to. So I mean, I wouldn't do that, but there is a couple of teams that went pretty heavy on tight ends. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I think it is the Narwhals. Tyler, he came away with 3 strong tight ends. I can't find it right now, but he spent a lot on it. I think he got something like Eifert, Reed, and Gronk, or something like three very, very high expensive tight ends. That might not be the 3 he picked, but he spent a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how it worked out. I mean, the rest of his team didn't suffer too badly in terms of like raw production, I don't think, but the consistency week to week of the tight end position can be kind of a nightmare, even for the guys at the top. So I have a feeling that his team is going to be very, very boom and bust week to week.
Yeah, I kind of, because of the way tight ends got expensive, I avoided. Actually, I probably didn't have enough money to afford them, even because of what I did in the auction, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Go on.
Just to give you an idea of now last year in general was even for in terms of tight ends scoring was pretty down last year. I mean, passing numbers and receiving numbers were pretty much down across. Even tight end numbers were also down. Like Kelsey was the number 1 tight end last year in fantasy, and I can't remember the exact stat, but it wouldn't have finished in like the top 4 or 5 in some other years. So, but in this league last year, Travis Kelsey was the 15th overall scoring player in the league. So he only had 2 games of under double-digit scoring last year. So, they're and then the second one will be Greg Olsen down at 28th overall. So, I think they're sprinkled in there. I don't think they're certainly dominating the leaderboard most weeks, but, they can definitely make a difference with the extra scoring.
I almost wonder if it might end up making a difference for the lower tier tight end. I mean, the elite guys are getting a ton of points no matter what. I mean, if Gronk gets double for his receptions, you're already paying a high price to have Gronk as your tight end. But the guy that gets like 4 catches for like 30 yards, all of a sudden that's probably a startable, serviceable day for your tight end if you've spent in other places.
Oh, absolutely. Like Charles,
have to hope for.
Absolutely. Charles Clay, for instance, he was a top 100 scorer in the league. So he was a 95th overall scorer in the league was Charles Clay, Buffalo tight end. So yeah, it definitely bumps up those.
Looked at that kind of stuff before the auction.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think those lower price guys are definitely going to be, at least week to week contributors, or somebody you can throw in and not really, most tight ends, say the top 4 or 5 or so are the only really ones that you can kind of set it and forget it. But in this league, I think there's going to be a lot more of those options.
Maybe Jesse James will hit for me now.
Yeah, now that Mr. Green's out of town.
Yeah, that was good news. I think I got Jesse James real cheap at the end of the auction.
Nice.
Well, let's talk about the auction. We've done now a lot of auctions together.
Yep.
And I still have no idea how any auction is going to go. I have auctioned with you and with several other people multiple times, and I still have no idea the pattern, how somebody might perform in an auction. Everything seems different. What were your thoughts on this exact auction?
Well, for my personal team in this auction, I planned on a similar strategy that you had, which was to go in and get 2 strong quarterbacks early and then kind of take value at the rest of the positions. And I'll let you tell your side of that, but things in this auction did not go quite as they did in other Superflex auctions that we have done recently, most notably, I guess, Capitalist Pigs 1 and 2, where quarterbacks were expensive early, they were expensive in the middle, they were maybe even more expensive at the end.
The whole time.
Yeah, expensive the entire time. And this auction we had, so I had a little bit of a suspicion that this might happen because we have, I'm not sure exactly how many, but there are several owners in this league that have never done an auction before. And then there's several other ones that have never played in Superflex before. So there's kind of a nice combination of experienced and lesser experienced people in this. And I kind of thought that the people that have never been in an auction before, they're going to see all these studs on the board and just think, oh, I guess I just want to own them all. I just want to own them all because I know that I do, and just not have that discipline to stick to their budget. So As quarterback prices rose and rose and rose and rose, I decided that I was going to, instead of trying to get two of those, I was going to go ahead and get one and see what happened with the prices after that. And for whatever reason, I think I was tracking, I guess I know the reason, I was tracking the total expenditure of cash throughout the league, throughout the entire auction. And we got to a point where we had like 45% of the money spent on like 85 players, which so that fills 8 starting rosters out of 24 teams. So once we got to that point, I knew that I knew that the bubble was coming, and it did come towards the end there, and even in the middle there. A lot of good quarterbacks and a lot of studs started going off the board for very cheaply. Just to give you an idea of some of the highest price guys, Andrew Luck went for $260 something, I believe. And in Pigs 1 and 2, I think he was in like the 220 range. In Pigs 1, he might have even been closer to 200. I vaguely remember in Pigs 1 that there was only a couple of players that hit that $200 mark. But in this league, I think we had a dozen players, or maybe even more than that, off the board at over $200 a player. And Ezekiel Elliott, I think he went for $290, which is absolutely insane. I hope, I can't remember who bought him for that, but I hope he enjoys him, because 29% of your budget on one player is in a league where you have to start 10 is quite the investment. So good luck to that guy. But yeah, quarterbacks and running backs, but all the studs were all over $200. And I think we even got a few receivers, Odell Beckham and Mike Evans, I think also went for over $200. But after that, the value started coming. I picked up Philip Rivers for like 70 or $80, something like that. I got Keenan Allen for like $70. So sorry, I guess you'd say percentage, like 7% of the budget. So there were deals to be had, just not any of them early.
No, and that was one thing that, I mean, all auctions, the price line fluctuates, but I've never seen such an almost, I mean, if the prices fell off a cliff.
Absolutely.
After about a week. It was 2 separate auctions, which, I mean, every auction is different, but I guess be aware, folks, that in an auction with double copies, this could happen if everybody comes out of the gate swinging. My plan going into it was, like you said, I'm coming out swinging. I'm going to attack these quarterbacks. I'm going to put bids that look so high that people think that's crazy. There's no way I'm going to overbid him. Only because I saw that happen in Pigs and Pigs 2, and the prices went up for the copies after that on quarterbacks. So I came out swinging, and I went big on Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, and spent 44% of my budget on those 2 players. And I won them both. I mean, I think I won them both within just a couple of days of the auction starting.
Yeah.
And at that point, then I was pretty low on money already.
Yeah, for a couple of days there, it looked like you actually had some value. And I still think to some extent you did get a value on those players when considering the prices of the other top quarterbacks. Like I said, Luck went for $260. I think Rodgers was, at least one copy was above $250. And you got both of those guys for in like the $220 range. So by that measure, you still did get a good deal. But when you can get, the guys that are maybe in that next tier below, for $100 less, it doesn't look quite as good. So I did the same thing, except for I wanted to go in. I was like, okay, there's no way I can have 2 of these guys now. So I wanted to get one. So I got Russell Wilson at $230, which I guess I'm okay with, considering the prices of the other guys. But I maybe would have rather spent $220 on Winston, which at the time I thought was kind of crazy. But then Luck came out and Rodgers came out, and I felt okay about it again. So. Yeah, it was crazy. It started out super high for a while, for about a week, and then it just dropped off a cliff. And then at the end, it started coming up a little bit again for some of the later guys. Once people that were saving a little money really realized that they were going to have too much money left over. I think one team actually finished with $80 left. So, yeah, so not as good of budgeting as maybe he could have done, but he was able to basically control the end of the auction, which is one thing that I often like to do in them.
Yeah, and that was another thing I wanted to avoid, since this is not a rolling bankroll. I don't want to leave $1 on the table. And I did some auctions last year where I ended up with like $50 at the end of it. And I was like, oh man, like looking back, when I thought those prices were too high early, I should have just spent then, because this $50, I can buy 50 crappy $1 players. That does me no good. So I've started to treat auctions with not bankroll leagues, a little bit different. I'm much more aggressive in them, and hopefully I end up being. I don't know. We'll see how this lineup shakes out, but I hope I do it okay.
John, what did you think? What did you think about about midway through the auction when I kind of suspected that prices were about to plummet? I had bought Des Bryant for I think about just under 12% of your budget of my budget, and so then I decided to this is still a good price on Des. I still think it was a good price on Des, but I offered him up for $100, giving up $16 or $17, whatever it was in equity to trade to get some money back in. And with that money, I was able to pick up Keenan Allen and Doug Baldwin and a few other guys instead. So what did you think about that? Did you like that move, or did you think I kind of gave up too much there?
I was very jealous of that move. As soon as I saw somebody pay for him, I immediately tried to shop Allen Robinson. What I bought Allen Robinson for was $150, I think, right around 15%, which I'm okay with. But at the same time, what I saw was, oh my gosh, on the board, I can get 3 guys for this. That's a 3-for-1 trade. And so I wanted to do it, but unfortunately, I think you got the one person that had money to spend for a stud, and nobody else had money left.
It's funny too that owner. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was willing to sell it, Allen Robinson, for, a $20 loss. I think is what I ended up. I said I'd sell him for $130, but I couldn't get anybody to pay that because I think everybody realized, look, at this point now you can get a really good receiver for $70-$75, and they'd rather have 2 of those than 1 Allen Robinson. So yeah, I felt a little stuck there and jealous of your deal.
It's funny, actually. The owner that bought him actually did not have that much money, which I was surprised. He had went in and bought Le'Veon Bell. He had spent like 76% of his budget on Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, and I think Julio Jones. And I threw that out there, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll buy Des Bryant for $100." So that took him to I think he had 20% or maybe even less than that of his overall budget left. But he still came around with a pretty good team, except for quarterback. He is studded out everywhere, but his quarterbacks are Brian Hoyer and Trevor Siemian. So good luck, buddy.
Yeah, see, and that I don't ever want to be in a super flex league stuck without quarterbacks, because the cost to acquire them is just impossible. I mean, it's you have to pay so much, and we've seen it in pigs. I've sold quarterbacks for prices that I never would have thought I could get. And now this year I spent most of my rookie money trying to corner the market of young quarterbacks, only so that I can flip them for a profit in the future. I attack quarterback now. I'm never going to try and be that guy that wins with, Alex Smith and I don't know, whoever the Browns are starting for 5 weeks out of the year. That's too hard.
And they're never going to, as daunting as it is to spend that much money on your quarterbacks and your startup, they're even more expensive to acquire anytime else. So the cheapest time you're ever going to get them is in a startup, as weird as that sounds. I know we just said we spend 44% of our budget on quarterbacks, but they're going to be way more than that, just evidenced by the trade that I made in Power Hungry, like we talked about at the beginning, sending Antonio Brown and to get Cam freaking Newton. So they're going to be super expensive way after the auction.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about having Mariota and Winston as the cornerstones of my franchise. I've got plenty of guys I need to fill in elsewhere. I don't know. I got Amari Cooper and Devontae Freeman and Allen Robinson, Demaryius Thomas. I like my roster. I'm looking at it again. I really do like it, but I'm shocked at what was your favorite? And we talked about this in the chat. People were asking, what was your favorite value that you got when the prices plummeted and all of a sudden people didn't even want to spend double digits on a guy? What was your favorite value that you got because of the way this auction went?
Yeah, there was a few. I felt like getting Ajayi for under 10% of my budget was pretty strong. I think I think Rivers was like 7%. Keenan Allen was 7.3%. Getting Deshaun Jackson for like 6%, not 6%.
$6.
$6.
That's the same price I got Deshaun Jackson for.
Yeah, like that. I mean, whatever, however you feel about Deshaun Jackson, but he should not be going. You should not be able to get a wide receiver for that price. So, those are just a few of them. But I think being able to trade back in really kind of helped me pick up value there in the middle of the end of the auction.
Yeah, I love that trade for you. I mean, it really made your team so much better. Otherwise, I think our rosters would have looked very similar, where I have 18 players on my team, and we start 10. So
yeah.
I'm going to be starting some players that I paid $1 for, but I paid $1 for Tavon Austin, who I don't even like. But I mean, if he gets any, of those behind the line of scrimmage passes, that counts as a rushing attempt. So in this, he gets a little bit of a bonus. Mohamed Sanu's nothing flashy, but he cost me $1. If he can go out there and if he can just help me get by, like for $1, because how much the price is just really plummeted. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, and I'll throw out Delanie Walker too. I got him for like $20. Maybe it was less than $20, but
no,
if I got to pay,
I bid you up to I think about 20, and that's all I had left.
Because Gronk, I think Gronk went for like 160, something like that. So if I can get the, a top 8 guy instead of a top 3 guy, I'll go ahead and take that. So that was a good one too.
Yeah, I was pretty upset with that one. I kept pushing that button, and it kept saying this was a proxy auction. So I just kept getting that reject message every time on Delanie Walker. And I was like, God, man, why can't I just want him.
I think he was the last like legitimate starter on the board, is why I put basically the rest of my money on him.
Yeah, he was the last tight end for sure. That was a consistent tight end who didn't lose his job in the draft. So.
Right.
All right. What else do we have in this league? Let me scroll down. I'll have to go back and cut this out. Let's see. We've talked about scoring. We've talked about the rivalries.
We have second chance if you want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, and we should.
The way the rookie auction goes.
Yeah, that's
the free agent auction.
Yeah, let's get to that. All right. Okay, so this is a league that the chat's very active. We do have 24 owners, so that makes it a little bit easier. If only half the people are active, it seems extremely active. But the chat never stops, and this league is never going to stop. You put in some things to keep this an extremely active league, which is appreciated. Those will be fun. What are some of the things you put into this league to keep it active?
So one of them is this league is kind of an amalgamation of the favorite parts of my favorite parts of all of my favorite leagues. So there's elements from the Pigs leagues. There's elements from Kitchen Cinco leagues. There's some elements from other leagues that I've created. And one of them that I stole from, a couple of them actually, I guess, that I stole from the Kitchen Sink leagues and Ryan McDowell is this. One of them is the second chance auction. So if you're not familiar with that, basically every March, each owner will have the opportunity to basically give up all of their assets on their teams and join a pool of owners that will basically do another dispersal draft out of the available assets. So if there's ever any owners that decide to leave, they'll also be in there. So basically it gives you a chance to, hey, I screwed up my league, my team. Let's see if I can rebuild it from a smaller pool of assets. And some years there are some really good, good ones. I do suspect that the second chance is going to be a relatively rare occurrence. Most people like their teams, even if they're not necessarily teams that are competitive for a championship. They often still like them because they're filled with youth or whatever, or they have high draft picks and stuff. So my guess is it's going to be more of a thing when we have an owner leave and we have someone come in and take over an orphan. Then someone might say, hey, look at all those things that are available. And it will be blind. So you will be entering basically not knowing any of the assets that are going to be in the pool except for your own. So I kind of feel like your team's going to have to be real bad, like really old or something like that for somebody to take a chance. But you never know. There could be a season where we have high turnover and we have 5 or 6 teams and a whole bunch of good assets, and that might attract more teams to jump in too. Another one we're going to do is a free agent auction. And I think this one is from Scott Fish. Basically, all we're going to do here is we're going to be able to take players from our own rosters, put them up for auction before the rookie draft, and owners will use their rookie dollars, which are converted from rookie picks, to bid on these veterans. And we'll do a reserve. I originally thought maybe I didn't want to do a reserve, but I think that if we don't have a reserve, then there's not going to be a whole lot of activity in this auction, because people aren't going to want to risk a good player if they're not going to get a decent return on it. So it'll just be another way for teams to acquire rookie cash right before the rookie auction and have money do that. And if you're contending team, you'd rather spend your money on vets, then you'll have that option too. So that one should be fun. And then so the rookie auction is again, the dollar amounts is kind of an amalgamation of kitchen sink leagues and from the Capitalist Pig League. So everybody will have a first, second, and third round draft pick, and based on your potential points finish for non-playoff teams and order of finish for playoff teams, they will get a draft pick converted to a certain amount of rookie dollars. So just to give an example, the 101 is worth $300. The 1.24, because there's 24 teams in the league, is worth $100. So the 1.01 is worth 3 times as much. And then the winner of the toilet bowl, in addition to, I can't remember if I put down a money prize for the toilet bowl or not, but they will get the 1.25 pick, which is basically an extra compensatory pick that's between the first and second round. It's basically worth $1 more than the 2.01. The 1.25 is worth $96, and the 201 is worth $95. Extra for the people in the non-playoff bracket to kind of compete over.
Yeah, and I like having a prize from the toilet bowl. That's fun. It gives people that are out of it a reason to still try and be active in the league and competitive. You've designed a very active league here, because you've stolen from some of the greats, which is the way
absolutely.
to design a league. Why
reinvent the wheel?
So have you ever experienced a second chance dispersal in any of the kitchen sink leagues or any of the other leagues that have it?
I did. I came into Kitchen Sink 2 last year as taking over an orphan team, and participated in the dispersal there. And I think it was me and 3 other owners there. And then also another one for the now defunct Hyperactive Leagues. I took over an orphan there and took over a dispersal team there as well. So I have a little bit of experience doing it.
But were any of the people that participated in it actual returning owners that decided to throw away everything and start over?
I can't remember. I can't remember, but I did 2 more dispersals this year as well. I just remembered one for the DTC Championship League, and they had, I think, 3 owners leave, and then 2 other in addition to myself. Were in 2 other owners that were part of the league, but we're still staying in the league, but gave up their teams to join. So there was, I think it was six total teams that were part of it. And they gave it up because there was so many studs in that draft. Everybody who picked, I think there were 6 of us. Everybody got a stud in the first round. I think it was OBJ, Zeke, Rodgers, Jameis Winston, some other guys in there. So that one was really attractive to other people. And then the other one was the DLF Staff League had some major turnover too. The partners decided to give up their team and let writers join. So there was, I believe, 8 of us in that dispersal. So those ones, I would guess that amount of owners is pretty rare. I would guess in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 would be more common.
Yeah, it sucks when there's league turnover, but it does allow for that dispersal draft to take place, which ends up being fun. It's a fun way to join into a league. It's a fun way to bring new people into the league. Even people that aren't participating, they tend to still kind of keep an eye on it at least. And there's always a little bit of talk about it and just monitoring to see how people are taking it. And it's at a time when there's kind of that lull in fantasy football. You scheduled it for March, so we're not quite to where everybody's, when's the combine? That's April, right? So
yep.
Where March is kind of a little bit of a dead period. And if you get that chance to do a dispersal, it ends up bringing a little bit of action to the league, which is always fun. When did you say we're going to be doing the free agent auction? Is that you said right before the rookie draft?
Yeah, we'll do that right before the rookie draft, which my guess is probably will be each May. So we'll probably it'll probably be March. It'll probably be March second chance auction, April free agent auction, and then May will be the rookie auction. So I would like to come up with some more things towards the end of it. I think right now in the Constitution, it says that we're going to do just open waivers in August. But as we've been talking in the chat and stuff, I think we're just going to end up doing another free agent auction. Not, I guess, more of a traditional free agent auction, meaning we'll be able to use our in-season blind bidding money to pick up players from the waiver wire, not like the other free agent auction where we're using players from our own team.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I mean, I like the advantage you can get from paying attention and going to the wire and picking up a guy. But from a league activity standpoint, it'll be a lot more fun if everybody all of a sudden gets to participate, in an event that probably won't have that many interesting players in it, but it'll be a little bit better than just, one team going and picking up 3 guys off the waiver wire that they just happen to pay attention to a little bit closer, and they found that nugget.
Yeah, and one thing real quick, going back to the second chance dispersal draft, one thing teams that are not participating in should still be paying attention to, because I have seen many deals being made, you pick this player and then I'll trade you these guys, once you have them on your roster, that kind of thing. So there's lots of deals to be made, even for owners that are not participating in the second chance.
Yeah, and that was key in Power Hungry. There was plenty of I know Clint and Kevin both were asking owners, is there anybody you want me to pick?
Yep.
Tell me who I should bid on and buy, and then give me real money for it, or not real money, but blind bid money later on for this player. I think they probably set up a few deals going that route.
Yeah.
Have we covered everything with the league? Let's see here.
I guess the playoffs is a little bit different. It's like I just set it up like pigs. So the playoffs is, instead of doing 6 teams from each conference are going to make the playoffs, and then in week 14 the 3 highest teams in each conference will advance. Week 15 the highest from each conference will advance, and then 16 is the champion. So in week 14, instead of having head-to-head matchups, you're playing against 2 other people and just have to outscore. You're playing against 5 other teams and you have to outscore 3 of them.
Yeah, and I think for these non-standard size leagues, I think that's kind of the only way you can really go, because otherwise it just gives it's not really fair to set it up as a head-to-head if you've already made the playoffs after beating 6 out of 24 get in. You've beat 18 teams.
Yep.
And then if you just get one unlucky matchup, that sucks. So
yeah. And honestly, I wanted to try to make the prize pool to a point where, every team that made the playoffs got a little something, but it just didn't work out. It didn't seem like the championship prize was going to be enough, or we weren't going to be able to give enough to charity or whatever. So, but the top 4 teams get some money. So, it's not as difficult to make. I guess it is difficult because there's 24 teams, but if you think about it as 2 12-team leagues, it's not as difficult to make, at least your money back going forward. And there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways to make a little bit of money in this league. So, I think everybody should be happy with it.
Yeah, and even so, I mean, if you win your conference and you don't manage to get in the top 3 in advance, even if you get 6th, you're still even if you won your conference and you get 6th, you're winning a little bit of money back. So
yeah,
that works out well. All right, well, we're going to wrap up the league talk then, and we will go out of the league just a little bit. First question for the out of the league is, when you are at the dentist office and you're getting work done on your teeth, do you make eye contact with the hygienist?
Oh man, that's a good one. I think it depends on the hygienist, but mostly no. If I'm having anything done more than just a cleaning, my dentist actually has a TV screen that they'll pull down from the ceiling in front of us, and we can pick. Awesome. And we can pick a movie on Netflix to watch or whatever. when I first started going there, they didn't have Netflix, and they had like this whole cabinet of DVDs, and you would pick one and go in. And of course, the very first time I did it, I made the mistake of picking a funny movie. I think it was The Hangover, and laughing with two people's hands in your mouth, that doesn't really go together. But no, I think that I usually don't look in the eye of the dentist. I usually close my eyes. Or my dentist also, they have on the roof, they have I don't know if you've seen them, but they have those tiles that go over the fluorescent lights. They're like clouds, or a picture of like a field or something like that. So there's something to stare at. I absolutely hate going to the dentist, even though my dentist is great. But it's one of my least favorite things in the world to do. So I usually try to find my happy place, or if I'm having something else done, watch a movie and just kind of try to take my mind off of what's happening. It's the smell, man. The smell, like when you get a filling, that drill. Yeah. Oh, the smell, the burning of teeth. It sets me off.
It is awful. Yeah, I asked that question because I actually went to the dentist today with all three of my kids. So we had four dental appointments today. A lot of fun. But I sit there with my eyes closed, and my daughter asks me, "Why did you fall asleep when they were working on your teeth?" And at that point, then I realized, no, I just closed my eyes because I don't feel like it's just such an awkward situation.
Yeah. like your hands are in my mouth. Why do I?
And you're right there in front of, you're like 6 inches from my face. So I don't have some awesome TV to look at. That's, oh man, I'm actually friends with my dentist. I'm gonna have to tell him about that.
Yeah, dude, it's really awesome. He does such cool things with it too. Like he pulls down the screen, and then he has a little camera on a probe, and goes back and shows you the tooth or what it actually that he's doing. So you see inside your mouth, behind your molars, and you're like, oh yeah, there's a giant hole there. You should probably fill that.
Matt's like, where's the nitrous? I want to watch The Hangover. I'm gonna watch The Hangover 2 next, and I need some nitrous oxide to enjoy that one.
Might bite one of their fingers off.
Yeah. All right. Oh crap! Now I forgot what was my second question? Let me see. I had it in my head, and now we got talking about the dentist, and I forgot it. Let's see here. Oh well. I think I'll just end it there. All right. No, I can't remember, and I think we've probably gone way over 45 minutes. So, all right. Go on.
No, I was saying, okay, that's fine. Saying we can keep going, we can quit, whatever you want, man.
I was trying to think. God, I had another question that I see. This is why I should write them down. They popped into my head earlier today. I'm glad I remembered the dentist one, because when stuff like that happens to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember what it was. All right, and you actually touched on my second question a little bit ago when you said your phone was blowing up. I was going to ask, have you ever actually accepted, made a trade, made a bid, done anything when you're actually giving a keeper talk at the zoo? Have you ever actually done anything? Have you pulled your phone out in front of an audience and actually done something fantasy football related?
I have not gone that far. I have definitely made trades at work while I'm raking an exhibit, or feeding out, breaking up some hay for an animal or something like that. But we have auditors that come by our talks sometimes and grade us on our content and what we're doing and stuff. So I even as someone addicted to fantasy football as myself, cannot pull off doing that during a public keeper talk. But definitely have done it inside an exhibit before.
All of a sudden you start talking like a Micro Machines guy when your phone's going off. So you go on Micro Machines to get through it so you can check to see what that fantasy football alert is then.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What's your favorite exhibit to make a trade in?
Any exhibit that isn't a carnivore exhibit, so I don't get eaten. So it's probably one of the gazelle exhibits.
All right. Well, Matt, I appreciate you joining me. Give everybody your information one more time at the end here.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at mpricer. You can find all my work on DLF. Listen to the DLF Dynasty podcast. Listen to all the stuff that DLF is doing. And then if you're interested in learning more about the zookeeping profession, whether you want to be a zookeeper or you just want to hear some fun stories about animals, check out my podcast, Zookeeper Stories. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and on zookeeperstories.com.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Folks, go ahead and copy leagues like this. Have a charitable component to your league. It really costs nothing. Nobody misses it. It makes it way more fun. And play in auction leagues.
Yes.
Every league should be an auction. Play auction leagues and make it so that people are competing for future money, stuff like that. Progressive pots. Set your league up like this league. Give a little bit of that money to charity and have some fun in fantasy football. As for me, you can always interact with me. I'm at Empire FFL. Rate, review, subscribe, retweet, share, all that stuff that goes along with podcasts. I appreciate it every time that somebody does that. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining me.
No, thank you, man.
Yeah, and until the next one, enjoy the insanity.